The dismissal. December 8, 1941, 9:12 a.m., Berlin, Reich Chancellery. Leather saws echo along marble. Cigarette smoke hangs low, sour and stale, trapped beneath chandeliers that have seen victory announced and enemies condemned. A map table dominates the room, Europe already colored in confident gray. Red pins creep east. Blue pins retreat west. Outside, winter presses against the city like a held breath. Inside, the men closest to Adolf Hitler lean forward, confident, almost amused. Reports from across the Atlantic are being read aloud. The United States has declared war. The words land softly. No gasps. No sudden movement. Just faint scoffs, exchanged glances, the subtle smiles of professionals convinced they are witnessing a historical footnote. General Oberst Alfred Jodl adjusts his papers. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring leans back, bored, fingers drumming on polished wood. Somewhere, someone mutters, "Industrial amateurs." Hitler does not interrupt. He stares at the map, jaw set, eyes narrowed. When he finally speaks, his voice is controlled, dismissive. America, he insists, is a nation of consumers. A country drunk on comfort. Too divided, too slow, too soft to fight a modern mechanized war across oceans. Steel wins wars. Discipline wins wars. Will wins wars. And Germany, surrounded by conquered factories and enslaved labor, believes it possesses all three. Thousands of kilometers away, across a black Atlantic, another sound is rising. Not speeches. Not cheers. Machines. Detroit, Michigan, same morning. A factory whistle screams. Then another. Then another, rolling across the frozen city like a chain reaction. Men pour through steel doors, lunch pails swinging, breath fogging the air. Women follow, scarves pulled tight, hands already stained with grease. Inside the River Rouge complex, furnaces roar to life. Steel flows. No one in Berlin can hear it yet. Back in Germany, planners run numbers. They've studied America. Or at least they think they have. A peacetime army barely larger than Portugal's. A navy scattered across two oceans. Aircraft designs untested in real combat. A democracy that argues before it acts. Labor unions. Civilian politics. Racial tension. Isolationist newspapers. To the Nazi mind, it all adds up to paralysis. What they miss is motion. Not the motion of troops. Not yet. The motion of belts. Of cranes. Of rails. Of ideas moving from paper to steel without pause. Berlin, December 1941. The meeting continues. Attention shifts east. Moscow still matters more. Oil still matters more. The United States is acknowledged, logged, categorized. A problem for later. Germany has time, they believe. Time is the one thing they no longer possess. Washington, D.C., evening. Lights burn late across Pennsylvania Avenue. In rooms thick with smoke and urgency, maps are unrolled, numbers recalculated, priorities shattered and rebuilt. President Franklin D. Roosevelt does not talk about revenge. He talks about capacity. How many planes? How many ships? How fast? The answers are not comforting. So he demands new ones. Within days, orders flood outward like electricity finding ground. Automobile executives are summoned. Railroad men. Steel magnates. Engineers who have never worn a uniform. They are not asked politely. They are told the nation is at war. Factories designed for sedans and refrigerators are given new blueprints. Assembly lines meant for chrome and comfort are remeasured for armor plate and rivets. Plants that once closed on weekends will no longer close at all. 3 shifts. For if necessary. Somewhere in Germany, winter deepens. U-boats slip into the Atlantic, confident and lethal. In 1942, they will tear open shipping lanes with frightening ease. Tankers burn within sight of American shores. Captains report victories so effortless it feels obscene. Berlin reads these reports with satisfaction. This is what happens, they think, when amateurs face professionals. What they cannot see is the response. California, early 1942. A hangar door slides open. Light spills across bare aluminum frames, dozens of them. They are unfinished bombers, skeletal but identical, lined up with surgical precision. A foreman shouts. Rivet guns explode into noise. Overhead cranes glide along rails like silent predators. Blueprints are revised mid-shift, improvements fed back into production without stopping the line. An engineer wipes sweat from his eyes and realizes something startling. They are building faster today than yesterday. And tomorrow will be faster still. Germany's intelligence services begin receiving fragments. Production figures that don't seem credible. Orders that exceed raw material estimates. Ship completions that arrive months early. These reports are challenged, dismissed, filed under American exaggeration. After all, the Reich has conquered Europe's factories. It commands forced labor for millions. It has centralized control. America, by contrast, is chaotic. Too many companies. Too many opinions. Too much freedom. Freedom, German planners believe, is inefficient. They are about to learn how wrong that belief is. In Berlin, confidence remains intact. The war, they say, will be decided by 1942. Or 1943 at the latest. Before America can matter. Before America can build. But on factory floors across the United States, a different clock has started. It does not tick. It accelerates. And soon, the sound of American industry will grow too loud for the world to ignore. The Awakening. Spring 1942, Washington Navy Yard, 3:40 a.m. The river is black and still, reflecting floodlights that turn night into artificial day. Steel hulls loom along the docks, incomplete but already immense. Welders cling to scaffolding like insects, sparks cascading into the water below. The air tastes of metal and ozone. A Liberty ship takes shape at a pace that feels unnatural. Keels are laid in days. Hull sections arrive pre-cut, pre-drilled, numbered like parts of a giant machine. Cranes swing them into place with brutal efficiency. Where shipbuilding once took years, now it takes weeks. Someone checks a clipboard and shakes his head. They're ahead of schedule. Across the Atlantic, German naval intelligence receives updated estimates of American ship production. The numbers are revised upward. Then revised again. Each revision is met with resistance. Impossible, they insist. The docks would choke. The workers would strike. The steel wouldn't arrive on time. But it does. Every time. Kaiser Shipyards, Richmond, California. Henry J. Kaiser walks the yard with his coat open, unbothered by the cold. He is not a naval architect. He has never commanded a ship. What he understands is flow, how to remove friction from a process until speed becomes inevitable. He points, moves walls, demands new methods. Prefabrication is pushed to its limit. Entire ship sections are built inland, loaded onto rail cars, delivered like packages, then fused together at the dock. Welding replaces riveting. Training is compressed, simplified, standardized. Workers who had never touched a torch are welding hulls within weeks. One ship slides into the water. Then another. Then two in the same day. A record is set. Then broken. Berlin, Abwehr headquarters. Analysts stare at photographs taken by agents and submarines. Long lines of ships. Endless piers. Dry docks filled not with empty space but with steel. Someone clears his throat. This is not normal wartime production, he says carefully. No one responds. The problem for Germany is not that America is building ships. It's how America is building them. German industry is centralized, rigid, optimized for control. American industry is decentralized, competitive, adaptive. Thousands of companies experiment simultaneously. Mistakes are not punished, they are corrected and shared. When a process fails, it is replaced. When a process works, it spreads like fire. Detroit, Michigan. The River Rouge complex no longer sleeps. Assembly lines that once turned out sedans now build engines for tanks and aircraft. Machine tools are reconfigured midweek. Conveyor belts are extended through walls knocked down overnight. Ford engineers strip manufacturing down to its essence. Repeatability. A Sherman tank engine rolls off the line. Then another. Then hundreds. The tank itself is not perfect. German crews will later criticize it. Thin armor, high silhouette, gasoline engine. But there is one detail no enemy tanker can ignore. There are always more coming. Dayton, Ohio, Wright Field. Test pilots walk beneath wings that stretch wider than football fields. The B-24 Liberator dominates the tarmac, angular and imposing. It is not elegant. It is optimized. Range, payload, production. Factories across the country build components simultaneously, wings in one state, fuselages in another, engines elsewhere. They converge like arteries feeding a heart. By the end of 1942, a completed bomber leaves an American factory every hour. An hour. German aircraft designers are brilliant. The Messerschmitt Bf 109, the Focke-Wulf 190, machines of lethal refinement. But each improvement slows production. Each modification requires retraining, retooling, recalibration. In America, standardization becomes a weapon. Good enough, produced endlessly, beats perfect, produced rarely. Berlin, late 1942. Reports from U-boat commanders are no longer euphoric. The Atlantic is changing. Convoys are larger. Escorts more aggressive. New ships appear faster than torpedoes can sink them. Radar pulses sweep the sea. Aircraft appear where none should exist, long-range patrols hunting through fog and night. A U-boat captain surfaces and sees lights on the horizon. Not burning ships. Factories. America is no longer defending its coast. It is projecting power outward. The realization begins to form, slowly and reluctantly. This is not a nation slowly waking to war. This is a system that has shifted states, like an engine switching gears under full throttle. Willow Run, Michigan. The plant stretches beyond the horizon, a single building so vast it requires its own internal road system. Inside, the noise is continuous, overwhelming. Women rivet fuselages shoulder to shoulder. Men guide wing assemblies the size of houses. Supervisors time movements with stopwatches, shaving seconds from tasks performed millions of times. A B-24 bomber moves forward. It never stops. At one end, raw aluminum enters. At the other, a completed warplane rolls out. Every 63 minutes. German spies confirm it. Photographs, blueprints, testimony. The figures are real. By 1943, the United States is producing more aircraft than Germany, Japan, and Italy combined. By 1944, the gap is unbridgeable. High Command, Berlin. Goring explodes in rage when confronted with the data. It is exaggerated, he shouts. It is propaganda. But the evidence keeps arriving. New American divisions appear in Britain, fully equipped, fully motorized. Tanks parked in endless rows. Trucks by the tens of thousands. Crates stamped with dates weeks old, not months. Fresh. Germany is fighting a war of attrition against a machine that does not tire. And then comes the most terrifying number of all. Not ships. Not planes. Not tanks. Trucks. American logistics officers report figures so absurd they seem meaningless. Hundreds of thousands of vehicles. Mobile, reliable, replaceable. War, they understand, is movement. And America owns movement. Somewhere on the Eastern Front, a German officer watches fuel trucks arrive late, half empty. Spare parts are missing. Replacement vehicles do not come. He does not yet know why. He will soon. Because the factories across the Atlantic are no longer just producing. They are deciding the outcome of the war. And the men in Berlin are finally beginning to understand what they dismissed too late. The weight of numbers. January 1943, Casablanca, French Morocco, 10:30 p.m. Rain taps softly against canvas tents pitched beneath palm trees. Inside a brightly lit room, maps cover every surface. North Africa, Europe, the Atlantic Sea lanes. Cigarette smoke coils toward the ceiling as Allied commanders lean over the future of the war. General George C. Marshall listens in silence. So does Dwight D. Eisenhower. The discussion is not about tactics. It's about capacity. How many divisions can we sustain? How fast can we move them? How long before the enemy collapses under weight alone? The answers now come with confidence. Numbers are no longer estimates. They are promises. Across the Atlantic, American factories have reached something close to terminal velocity. Steel production surges beyond civilian imagination. Aluminum becomes so abundant it is stockpiled outdoors. Rubber substitutes are perfected. New refineries appear where farmland once stood. Everything is measured. Everything is tracked. Nothing is wasted. Germany, early 1943. Albert Speer, Reich Minister of Armaments, walks factory floors with a notebook clenched tight in his hand. He is brilliant, relentless, and realistic in a way few others in the Reich are willing to be. He sees the numbers, and he understands the danger immediately. Germany is producing more than ever before, tanks, guns, aircraft pouring from plants pushed to exhaustion. Yet every gain is marginal. Every increase costs more time, more labor, more lives. Allied bombing raids hammer infrastructure relentlessly. Skilled workers disappear into the draft or the rubble. Transport networks strain under pressure they were never designed to handle. Speer pushes reforms. Streamlines designs. Centralizes output. But even at peak efficiency, Germany cannot outrun the mathematics. United States, spring 1943. A troop train snakes west through Kansas, then California. Inside, soldiers sit shoulder to shoulder, weapons stacked neatly, uniforms still stiff with newness. None of them have fired a shot in anger. Yet every man carries equipment that arrived on time. Boots fit. Rifles function. Radios work straight out of the crate. On platforms, workers wave as the trains pass. They built this army. The Mediterranean. American-built Liberty ships unload cargo at a pace that leaves British dockmasters stunned. Crates stack higher than buildings. Trucks roll off ramps in columns that stretch to the horizon. Each crate carries a serial number. Each number is logged. Each loss is immediately replaced. German and Italian forces feel the difference before they can explain it. Every Allied setback is absorbed. Every Axis loss is permanent. In Tunisia, German units fight with precision and courage, but something fundamental is missing. Fuel runs short. Ammunition is rationed. Damaged vehicles are cannibalized for parts. Across the line, Allied armor withdraws, refits, and returns stronger than before. The battlefield itself has changed. Not because of genius. Because of supply. Berlin, mid-1943. Charts are pinned to walls and underground bunkers. Lines slope upward in American columns and downward everywhere else. Officers speak quietly now. Jokes are gone. Someone finally says it aloud. This is a war we cannot outproduce. The room goes still. No one argues. The consequences are felt everywhere. On the Eastern Front, German divisions shrink as replacements fail to arrive. Tanks are held back for lack of spare parts. Aircraft are grounded waiting for engines that never come. In the air over Germany, American bombers arrive in numbers that defy comprehension. Even catastrophic losses do not slow the stream. One raid ends. Another is already forming. Schweinfurt, Regensburg, Hamburg. Cities burn. German factories are repaired, dispersed, hidden, but never fast enough. Each strike forces delays. Each delay compounds the imbalance. Meanwhile, American plants operate untouched, expanding even as they run at full capacity. A German pilot lands after combat and walks past a row of empty dispersal bays. His ground crew shrugs helplessly. No replacements, they tell him. Across the channel, Allied pilots complain about overcrowded airfields. Too many planes. Too little space. The weight of numbers presses down relentlessly. Not dramatic. Not sudden. Unstoppable. By late 1943, Allied planners stop asking if they can invade Europe. They begin asking when. And for the first time since the war began, the question is not strategy. It is scheduling. Because the factories have already decided the answer. And soon that answer will come ashore in steel, fuel, and fire. The flood. June 5, 1944, Portsmouth, England, 11 p.m. Rain lashes the harbor. Wind snaps signal flags against their halyards. Beneath blackout lamps, thousands of men move in near silence, boots thudding on steel decks, weapons clutched tight. Ships crowd the water so densely that from above, the sea itself seems to vanish. Landing craft. Destroyers. Transport. Tankers. American-made hulls stretch to the horizon. Engines idle, then rumble alive. This is not an armada assembled by desperation. It is an armada assembled by surplus. In hidden coves and temporary ports, mountains of crates rise behind tarpaulins. Every crate is labeled. Every label corresponds to a plan written months earlier. Rifles packed in Ohio. Shells forged in Pennsylvania. Trucks assembled in Michigan. Ships built in California. They have crossed an ocean not as individual items but as a system. Normandy coast, early hours, June 6th. The sea is rough. Landing craft pitch violently as they close the shore. Men grip straps, heads down, faces pale beneath helmets scratched by earlier drills. When ramps drop, chaos explodes. Machine gun fire rakes the surf. Shells tear holes in water and flesh alike. Men fall, gear dragging them under. For a moment, it looks like exactly what Germany had always predicted. But behind the first wave there is another. And another. And another still. Losses are replaced faster than they are inflicted. Destroyed craft are simply bypassed. Damaged units are reinforced. Ammunition is passed forward without pause. And then something unprecedented appears on the beaches. Roads. Steel mats unfurl across sand. Bulldozers roar to life, pushing obstacles aside. Within hours, traffic flows. Tanks, trucks, artillery, all moving inland as if this hostile coastline were a loading dock. German High Command, Normandy. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's worst fears are realized in real time. This is not a raid. This is not a gamble. This is logistics weaponized. German counterattacks falter almost immediately. Fuel shortages delay armor. Conflicting orders freeze response. Units arrive piecemeal, unsupported. By contrast, American forces absorb losses and advance methodically. They do not need brilliance. They have momentum. Mulberry Harbor, days later. An artificial port rises from the sea. Prefabricated sections, built in Britain and America, are sunk and assembled under fire. Floating roadways link ship to shore. Cargo flows continuously day and night. The impossible has been made routine. Millions of tons of supplies pour into France without a single captured port. Germany cannot comprehend it. They are still fighting for bridges. The Allies are building harbors. Behind the front lines, mechanics work with crates of spare parts so abundant they leave boxes open, selecting what they need and discarding the rest. Wounded vehicles are not cherished, they are replaced. American infantrymen joke darkly about it. Don't worry, they say. There's more where that came from. As the weeks pass, the scale only increases. Entire divisions arrive fully equipped. New units rotate forward as if on schedule. Trucks line every road, an endless river of steel stretching back to the sea. The Red Ball Express is born, a supply network so vast it consumes fuel at staggering rates. And America simply supplies more fuel. Berlin, summer 1944. Intelligence summaries land on desks with increasing urgency. Normandy is not contained. Breakout is imminent. The numbers are terrifying. Tanks outnumber Germany's. Aircraft dominate the skies. Artillery fires without pause. Someone circles a statistic in red pencil. Allied vehicle production, overwhelming. The word is not hyperbole. It is a diagnosis. On July 25, American bombers carpet the German lines at St. Lo. The ground shakes. Earth erupts. German defenses disintegrate. When U.S. armor surges forward, there is no stopping it. The flood has breached the dam. From this point on, the war in Western Europe is no longer balanced. It is directional. Every mile taken is supplied. Every loss absorbed. Every pause temporary. Germany's army still fights. But Germany's economy cannot. The factories across the Atlantic have done more than support an invasion. They have made retreat inevitable. And as Allied forces race across France, one truth becomes undeniable. The war is no longer being decided at the front. It is being finished by machines built years earlier, far from the sound of guns. The breaking point. August 1944, near Falaise, France, 2:15 p.m. The air stinks of fuel, cordite and rot. Smoke crawls across the fields in thick, choking waves. On the road below, twisted metal stretches as far as the eye can see. Trucks crushed into tanks, tanks split open like carcasses, artillery abandoned where it ran dry of fuel. German columns are dying in place. American fighter bombers scream overhead, P-47 Thunderbolts diving low, rockets slamming into stalled vehicles trapped by traffic jams that no longer move. Every pass turns steel into flame. This is not a battle of maneuver anymore. It is an execution of logistics. Weeks earlier, German commanders believed they could still stabilize the front. They spoke of counterattacks, of regrouping behind rivers, of buying time. Time is exactly what they do not have. Every destroyed truck matters now. Every lost fuel tanker is irreplaceable. Across the shattered countryside, American supply convoys continue to roll forward. Dust coats windshields. Engines run hot. Drivers sleep in their seats between shifts. The Red Ball Express never stops. Black and white soldiers alike haul ammunition, fuel, food, and spare parts forward at a pace that feels reckless. And yet it works. When a vehicle breaks down, it is pushed aside. Another takes its place. German rear areas. Fuel dumps sit empty. Ammunition is rationed. Units receive orders they cannot execute because movement itself has become impossible. A panzer division reports only enough fuel for 20 kilometers. Another reports none. Officers argue not over objectives but over who gets the last barrels. In Berlin, panic is barely concealed. Albert Speer presents figures no one wants to hear. Synthetic fuel plants are being destroyed faster than they can be rebuilt. Rail lines are in chaos. Replacement vehicles do not exist. Even if Germany could still build tanks, it cannot move them. Paris, August 25, 1944. American-built tanks roll down the boulevards. Crowds surge forward, cheering, crying, throwing flowers onto armored hulls still streaked with dust and oil. Behind the celebration is something colder. This liberation was not improvised. It was scheduled. The Allies do not pause. They surge east. Every bridge crossing is followed by engineers laying new roads. Every river line breached is reinforced within hours. Ammunition stockpiles leap forward as if pulled by gravity. German defenders fall back again and again, attempting to form lines that dissolve under pressure they cannot resist. Germany's western border. The Siegfried Line looms, bunkers, dragon's teeth, concrete and steel meant to stop armies. On paper it is formidable. In reality it is starved. American artillery pounds the defenses relentlessly. Guns fire so often that barrels glow dull red before crews rotate them out. There are always replacement barrels. There is always more ammunition. German soldiers listen to the shelling and understand something without being told. This cannot be matched. They are fighting a nation that can afford to be wasteful, because waste is absorbed by scale. Germany cannot. September 1944. U.S. forces stand at Germany's doorstep. Supply lines stretch dangerously long, but they hold. Engineers improve them daily. Bridges appear overnight. Roads harden under constant use. Logistics officers speak in calm, measured terms. How many tons per day? How many trucks per mile? They are solving problems Germany no longer can. Somewhere on the front, an American infantryman opens a crate stamped with a date only weeks old. Inside are fresh rations, clean socks, new ammunition. He shakes his head in disbelief. Back home, he says, they haven't missed a beat. This is the breaking point. Not the loss of a city. Not the loss of an army. The loss of the ability to recover. Germany is now fighting each day weaker than the last. America is fighting each day stronger. And the factories that once seemed distant now press directly against the Reich itself. The war has crossed an invisible line. From here on, it can only end one way. Desperation and illusion. December 16, 1944, Ardennes Forest, Belgium, 5:30 a.m. Snow falls thick and silent, muting the rumble of engines hidden beneath pine branches. German tanks sit nose to tail along narrow forest roads, exhausts frosting the air. Crews whisper, breath visible, hands numb as they wait for the order. This is Germany's last gamble. Operation Wacht dem Rhein. A suddenudar, a blow meant to split the Allied front, seize fuel depots and buy time. Time to negotiate. Time to fracture the alliance. Time to survive. The plan is daring. And fatally unrealistic. The offensive crashes forward at dawn. Artillery thunders. Infantry pour out of the trees. For a moment, surprise works. American lines bend. Some break. German commanders allow themselves hope. They need only one thing: fuel. But as columns advance, the truth asserts itself immediately. Captured American depots are smaller than expected. Fuel stocks are gone, moved days earlier by logistics officers who sensed danger and acted without waiting for orders. German tanks begin to stall. Not from enemy fire. From empty fuel lines. American rear areas. The response is instant. Truck convoys are rerouted mid-movement. Ammunition priorities shift. Units are reinforced not in days but hours. Entire divisions pivot with a flexibility German planners no longer possess. Snowstorms ground aircraft, briefly. When the skies clear, Allied air power returns with crushing force. Thunderbolts and typhoons hunt anything that moves. On frozen roads, German columns are caught in daylight. Fuel trucks explode. Panthers burn. Crews abandon vehicles they cannot refuel or repair. The offensive slows. Then falters. Berlin, late December 1944. Hitler demands reports that confirm success. Instead he receives silence, then bad news, then worse. Speer's figures are brutal. Fuel reserves are nearly exhausted. Aircraft production continues, but there is nothing to fly them with. Tanks roll out of factories only to sit idle. The Reich still builds. But it can no longer operate. American lines. Replacements arrive faster than losses accumulate. New tanks roll forward, factory fresh, paint still unscuffed. Crews climb aboard machines that smell of oil and new steel. They joke about it. Brand new, someone says. Lucky us. The German gamble collapses under its own weight. By January the bulge is gone. The front straightens. German forces retreat, shattered and weaker than before. The last strategic reserve has been spent. And it bought nothing. From this point on, the war inside Germany becomes something darker. No counterstrokes. No illusions of reversal. Only endurance. And endurance is a contest Germany cannot win. Because while German cities freeze and factories go dark, the factories across the Atlantic continue, untouched, unstoppable. The illusion has finally broken. What remains is the reckoning. The reckoning. March 7, 1945. Remagen, Germany, 3:20 p.m. Smoke drifts over the Rhine. The Ludendorff Bridge stands scarred but intact, its steel trusses groaning under artillery shockwaves. German engineers fumble with detonators, hands shaking, sweat cutting lines through grime. The charges fail. On the far bank, American infantrymen stare in disbelief. Then someone shouts, "Go! Go! Go!" They sprint onto the bridge as shells crash around them, boots clanging on metal plates still warm from explosions. Tanks hesitate then follow. Engineers crawl beneath girders, cutting wires, defusing what they can while bullets snap overhead. The Rhine has been crossed. For Germany, this was supposed to be the final barrier. A natural defense, a pause to regroup. Instead, it collapses in hours. And behind the men pouring east is something far more decisive than courage. An ocean of supply. Allied rear areas, Western Europe. Pontoon bridges rise overnight. Bailey bridges appear where spans are destroyed. Roads are repaired, widened, paved. Railheads push forward relentlessly. Every crossing multiplies the flow. Fuel, ammunition, food, replacements. The numbers are staggering. Entire corps move not by improvisation but by timetable. German resistance continues, often ferocious and localized. Towns fight. Units hold until crushed. But there is no depth behind them. No second line with strength. No reserve that can counterattack with force. Every German loss is final. Every Allied loss is administrative. The air war. American bombers dominate the sky in formations so vast they darken the sun. Fighter escorts range freely, hunting anything that moves. German pilots scramble when they can. Many never return. Fuel shortages limit training. Replacement pilots arrive with minimal hours. Aircraft are lost not to enemy fire, but to mechanical failure and inexperience. The Luftwaffe, once feared, is now a ghost force, present on paper, absent in reality. Inside Germany, cities lie in ruins. Transportation networks are fractured beyond repair. Civilians search rubble for food while factory managers beg for power, materials, anything. Speer's ministry continues issuing production targets. They are fantasies. Even when weapons are completed, there is nowhere to send them. The system has collapsed from the inside. American advance, spring 1945. Armored columns move deep into Germany, bypassing pockets of resistance, leaving them to be reduced later. Supply trucks keep pace, dust plumes trailing behind like banners. A tank commander scans his map and realizes something impossible months earlier. They are no longer outrunning supply. Supply is outrunning them. In captured towns, German officers surrender not in anger but exhaustion. They ask the same questions again and again. How many divisions do you have? How many tanks? How many more are coming? The answers are never precise. They don't need to be. Somewhere near the Elbe, an American officer watches Soviet units approach from the east. The meeting is calm, professional. The war's geography is being erased. Germany is being compressed. Factories in the United States continue at full pace. Ships still launch. Planes still roll off lines. Even as victory becomes inevitable, production does not slow. The system does not know how to stop. German soldiers feel it most clearly. Not in ideology. Not in speeches. In the silence of empty depots. In the absence of replacements. In the knowledge that no miracle remains. The reckoning is not announced. It arrives. The machine that ended a war. May 7, 1945. Reims, France, 2:41 a.m. A pen scratches across paper. General Alfred Jodl signs the document with a rigid hand, face hollow, eyes unfocused. Around him, Allied officers stand quietly. There is no cheering. No triumph. Only relief. Germany has surrendered. Across the Atlantic, morning breaks like any other. Factory whistles sound. Machines power up. Men and women take their places on assembly lines that have not stopped for years. Only now, gradually, does the pace begin to change. Orders are revised. Contracts adjusted. Lines retooled. War production becomes something else. The numbers, when finally compiled, are almost impossible to comprehend. Nearly 300,000 aircraft. Over 100,000 tanks and self-propelled guns. Millions of trucks and vehicles. Thousands of ships. A logistical output so vast it reshaped the planet. No empire in history had ever built like this. The truth, long denied in Berlin, becomes undeniable in hindsight. Germany did not lose because its soldiers stopped fighting. They did not. Germany lost because it fought a modern industrial war against a nation that turned industry itself into a weapon. Where Germany sought perfection, America sought repetition. Where Germany centralized, America multiplied. Where Germany controlled, America adapted. The result was not just more machines. It was resilience. American factories absorbed mistakes without collapsing. They corrected, adjusted, and surged forward. Bombing could not reach them. Shortages were solved by substitution. Losses were planned for and replaced. The system was anti-fragile. It grew stronger under pressure. This is why the war ended the way it did. Not with a single decisive battle. Not with a miracle weapon. But with an accumulation so vast that resistance became meaningless. In the years after the war, German officers would write memoirs searching for causes. Hitler's interference. Bad decisions. Lost opportunities. Few wanted to admit the simplest truth. They misjudged the enemy. They saw America as slow. It was not. They saw it as soft. It was not. They saw chaos. They did not see a machine learning how to move. The factories that built cars and refrigerators became arsenals. The workers who had never worn uniforms became the backbone of victory. The distance of an ocean became protection instead of isolation. And when the moment came, the weight of that system fell with unstoppable force. The war in Europe ended not in Berlin but years earlier, when whistles blew, furnaces roared, and assembly lines began moving faster each day. When German planners laughed. And America started building.